You guys noticed I didn't have my glasses on? Hi everyone, what's up? How are you today? RJ Martin here, back with another episode of Sips and Chill with RJ. Sips and Chill. When you got that attitude and you need a drink, you get a pup. I was gonna try to do a rap thing. I feel like I had one down, but I'll try it with y'all later. Anyway, how y'all doing? I know I've been gone for a week. I did one video, didn't like it. After editing, new video, new subject. So I've been talking about doing this one forever, and I want to dedicate it to one of my favorite YouTubers, Bailey Sarian, who does Murder Mystery Makeup Monday. I am not a makeup guru like she is, but I'm going to do something with my face. Her nick is makeup, mine is drinking smoothies. And also, there's someone else that also does this. She does Bad Movies in a Beat. Kenny JD. Kenny JD. I haven't heard from her in forever, but I was following along with the movies she said she didn't like and stuff. And then she was doing like good movies in a glam. I don't know where she is now, but I hope y'all are all out there and well. So I'm going to do it like her, similar, not taking all her stuff like the noggin stuff. But some of her words, I love how she does like suspicion, such. So I said I was going to do mine on a subject that she has not done. You know, guys, I love movies, TV, one of my favorite subjects ever. We could talk about for hours. So today's subject is on Phil Hartman. You guys remember Phil Hartman from back in the 90s? Grew up watching him. My mom was a big fan of Phil Hartman. We had at least one movie. And we watched him on SNL and everything, but I don't want to get too ahead of myself. So I'm just going to start doing it like Bailey. With a little sip and chill. Now, so, here we go. I got some wipes I need to do. I did just get back from a walk with one of my friends. Walking down in the heat of the Florida heat. Okay, so Philip Edward Hoffman. Excuse me, not Hoffman, Hartman. Philip Edward Hartman was born September 24th, 1948 in Ontario, Canada. It was a section called Brantville he was born in. His parents' names were Rupert and Doris, and he was the fourth of 8 kids. Guys, I'm not trying to be rude, but I was almost like, stay off of her, bro. Stay off of her. Anyway, going back to film. He was raised Catholic. And being raised Catholic, nothing really to it, just he was raised Catholic. And when Phil was 10 years old, his family decided to move to the United States, like out of Canada into the States, to the US. They moved to like the East Coast, northeast of the United States. They were in Maine. They moved to Connecticut, and before Phil graduated high school, they moved to the West Coast, and they were in Los Angeles, California area for sure. I want to say Los Angeles area. And Phil went to a school so Phil went to Westchester High for the remainder of his school year. Everybody would say Phil was the class clown. He was the goofy guy. He was the silly guy, the guy everybody wanted to be around. This is my facial. I honestly, guys, don't do my makeup. That's like a Bailey Sarian thing. This is why I do facial. I might just do a little for pretty effects. I'm boring, forgive me. So, Phil graduated in the 60s, late 60s. And he decided that he wanted to go to college for arts. Santa Monica College. But he didn't stay long. He decided to drop out of college. And he wanted to become a roadie in 1969. He wanted to become a roadie for a rock band unknown. Moreover, around that 1970, he met his first wife, Gretchen. And Gretchen and him, they were married for 2 years. In between that, while they were married, Gretchen was an artist and he wanted to go back to school for graphic design. And going to school for graphic design, he graduated full honors. At least I believe he graduated full honors. Graduated full honors from California University. And he got his own job doing graphic design, and he was really good at his job. He was so good. He did graphic album covers for like some of the, even did an album like logo for the band Cosby, Still and Nash. And it was a really cool logo. If you guys look it up, it's really cool how everything he did. It was awesome. So around the time he was doing all that, him and his first wife, Gretchen, they got a divorce. So then on to the next part of his life. They said, well, he was doing, in the late 70s, well, he made his first TV debut on The Dating Game. You guys remember The Dating Game? Now let's give Phil a big Dating Game kiss. Yeah. He even won that show. Now, it's not said if the woman he won the show on, like, he was the guy that she selected. It's not said that that's his wife, his second wife or not. But who knows? I don't. And the internet doesn't either. But Phil had a wild imagination in his graphic designs. They said he would do like voices, like everybody. Phil was goofy. It seemed like it was destiny, you know, for him to become a comedian. Comedian. But Phil seemed like he was destined to do voice work. So he would amuse himself and So in 1975, Phil decided he wanted to get this energy out, this comic energy that he had within him, and he didn't want to just go to waste while drawing graphic design. So in 75, he decided to find a comic outlet called The Groundlings, which was this kind of a school for art skits, like comic skits and all that good jazz. And he did it for a while, and he was really good at it. And he later on became one of the stars of the show. And he would use the money from his very well organized graphic design label to pay for the improv classes. He just, like, one day he was there and he was like, oh, I can do that. Got up on stage. They were very welcoming. And he was very kind. So they were like, Phil's cool. Everybody loved Phil. Phil was the man. As time went on, like I said, Phil became one of the stars of the show. After paying for everything graphic design, kind of let it go, because what he wanted to hook on to was being out of being a graphic designer, is being a comedian and seeing if he could get anywhere further television wise. So while he was there at the Groundlings, he met a popular man named Paul Reubens. You might know him as Pee Wee Herman. You guys remember Pee Wee Herman? Yeah. R.I.P. Paul. Yeah. So him and Phil became really good friends. And when they were talking after doing a lot of the skits they did, this is the time they started talking about developing characters for other things. And they came up with Pee Wee Herman, where Paul was the star and they would write skits. And it was started off on HBO as like a live art, you know, like Mad TV, In Living Color, SNL, and it became their thing. And he was Captain Carl every once in a while, but you know, Pee Wee Herman got big and he got huge. And around those times, he did meet his second wife. In 1982, he met his second wife. After being divorced from his first wife for 10 years, got back on the horse, and he met Miss Lisa Strands, who was a real estate developer. Now, they got married in 82, but like I said, I'm not sure. It does not say whether she was the woman he met on the dating game or not. But Phil kind of seemed like a fast guy. Like he would meet him, fall in love, and then get married within a year or so, because he was always over the head in the hills, like a hopeless romantic. So, Paul Rubens, you know, the guy that played Pee Wee Herman, and Phil, they had been doing Pee Wee Big Adventures and TV show, his Clubhouse and everything. But it started getting to where that was the only thing he was doing. And Phil, at the age of 36, was about to give up his dream as a comedian and actor because work was hard to find. It is hard to find work. I mean, you guys see all the TV things and you see how people are struggling. So it was hard for him to find the job that he really wanted, being a comedian. But Paul and him decided to write Pee-wee's Big Adventure, and he changed his mind with that because it became their swan song. It became the big thing that they did, and he was getting noticed, and he started doing little movies like he did it with director Penny Marshall. They did a movie on Jumping Jack Flash, and then in 1986, a little, not too long in between there, him and his second wife, Lisa, they got a divorce. Lisa later said that it was like when he was home, he wasn't really there. His mind was on the creative stuff. It wasn't like it started off. But Pee Wee Herman, you know, he became real successful. It got to a point where they wanted, of course, you know, Pee Wee, he guest starred in so many things, and his name was everywhere. People were mocking him, and Phil was helping with that. They even got like a cameo on a Cheech and Chong movie. In 1986, Phil started doing, he auditioned for SNL by advice from one of his friends, John Lovitz, the comedian. Penny Marshall and a few other people were like, you need to try SNL. Like, SNL is like really good. And he wanted to try SNL. So he auditioned, and of course he got it. I mean, if you know anything about Phil Hartman, if anything other than his voice work, it would be SNL. And because he mocked so many different people. He did President Clinton, President Reagan, Telly Savalas, the guy that, you know, who says, "Who loves you, baby?" Which he has that. He had that voice. He had that really pretty, kind of funny, not funny, but strong, manly voice, like that had that rasp to it. So he was able to play all those characters. And he mainly said he wanted to do Saturday Night Live because he wanted to get the, like attention, so, and the education of learning how to write movies for himself, because he wanted to be involved with that and do all of those things. So as time went on, the next year he met his third wife, Miss Brian. I believe it's pronounced Brian Amdell. Brian Amdell. When they got married, like in 87, she officially changed it to Hartman. Like a lot of people, I don't even know if it's hyphenated, like Robin Wright Penn did. A lot of people hyphenate their names, like Jada Pinkett Smith. A lot of people hyphenate their names, add the name. Like, I'm still keeping my name because that's me. Not like Tina Turner, who actually, her name was something different and just took it from Mike because she knew her name had power to it. Anyway, they got married. They ended up having two kids. Brian was a model. She did model work. She was actually really pretty. So around this time, Phil is striking it rich. He got SNL. He's doing all these skits. He's in all these movies. As the 80s dwindled down into the 90s, 1991, he's doing some voice work on The Simpsons. He's doing voice work for Disney. He did The Brave Little Toaster, which is one of my favorite movies, and I didn't realize until I looked it up. I knew that was his voice as I got older, but I didn't realize that it wasn't just any voices he was doing, though. Like, you could tell it was him, but he was also kind of like mocking like Jack Nicholson and Peter Lorre, and he did all these different voice work. He did a Christmas movie called Chancey's, and I forgot, Chancey's Silent Night, though, was when he was playing a mouse, and he was doing it with Tom Arnold, and they were like, think how much we'll give, think how much you'll get, but you know, I mean, like, it was cool. He was living like the high life. He was making it, and he was getting out there and getting the attention he wanted. And he started doing more movies. Like one of my favorite movies with him, and I recommend you guys watch, is House Guest with him and Sinbad. I think that came out in 1995. And it's so I wanted to see what Sinbad said about him, but they look like they got along. So they said they read the script together, and they both were, you know, comedians. They met somewhere along the lines doing comedy skits, and they said they saw the script and they were like, no. They ended up doing like a whole improv, and the movie, they followed like a certain point of view where they were like, we need to do this. Of course, they followed the script to an extent, but they improv, I think they said 85% of the movie. And then the other percent was scripted, of course. Like the scripted actors did their thing, but they improv the other half. They had fun, but Phil later said, even like he did Jingle All the Way with Arnold Schwarzenegger, and he said he preferred to do movies and TV. In 19, I believe also in 95, he had a television show, and I think it literally went from 95 to 1998. It didn't last long, sadly. And we're going to find out why. This is where it starts getting a little sad. So his wife, Brian, sometimes we hear the stories about how people do drugs, narcotics, alcohol. Brian wasn't having, I guess, some of the modeling was falling through. Phil tried to get her jobs. He got her one movie. I think it was him that got her one movie. But it was getting hard for her, and she would drink and she would do drugs. And the rumor is that he was going to leave her. There was one friend, like, you know, when he was on SNL, everybody loved him on SNL. They even called Phil the glue that held the show together, because he would connect with people and he would try to keep people calm when it was their first time on SNL. Letting them know, you're going to be all right. We're going to do great on this skit. He was like the pep talker. He was like the coach. He was one of the coaches. I was like, we got this, y'all. We got this. You know, he was the hype man. You know, everybody loved Phil. And he was even talking to a friend of his. So one of his SNL friends, it's weird. Like, you guys, without my glasses on, it's so weird. I'm so used to being like this. Anyway, he had an SNL friend named Jane Hooks. They were very close. He was close with a lot of his people because everybody loved Phil. Phil was kind and helpful, and even though like he swayed as he got older, he swayed away from the his Catholic roots, but they said he would still be religious. And I mean, like, he liked doing marksmanship, and he liked playing the guitar, which makes sense because, you know, he dropped out of school, like early college, to go and be on the road with a roadie. So probably where he learned guitar. But they would say that Brian would get jealous. And I guess, you know, Phil was not a bad looking man. He was good looking. Phil's pretty good looking. There's a picture, I gotta show y'all this picture, like, that his daughter posted on her Instagram stories, and I'm like, that's like, it's a black and white picture. And black and white pictures, you know, I'm a photographer, y'all. Excuse me. Black and white pictures capture the true essence of how and you might want to just take the kids, but he felt as if he broke up their family, she could take the kids from him. So he stuck it out, and he stayed. He was a really good man. He did other movies. Like, the last movie Phil did was Small Soldiers. I actually enjoy that movie. It's not one of it's his last movie. A lot of actors played in there. You got Gregory Smith and Phil Hartman, Kevin Polk, the voice of Tommy Lee Jones as Major Chip Hazard, Kirsten Dunst, David Cross, Jay Moray. It was a pretty nice, I think, what's his name? Fletcher. Oh my gosh. No. Dennis, like, I can't think of his name right now. I can see his face, but I can't think of his name. But he played in that movie. It was a great movie. And they dedicated it to him, but I'm jumping the gun. So we were talking about the wife. The part where I feel like Phil messed up on wife number 3. They say third time's a charm, but for Phil, not. May 27th of 1998. Brian decided to go out with some friends and have some drinks. And these friends also like to bring other things to the party, like cocaine. And she was talking about how stressful it was being married to Phil or whatever. Or I think that it made her go extra crazy because it wasn't that bad when Phil was literally doing everything to make her happy and to keep her appeased. And supposedly there were rumors going around that he was going to leave her. But I just think it was mainly people trying to tell him that he needed to and he did not. So she came home that night, I think around 10 p.m. at night. They said that they got into an argument over some nonsense to the point Phil was like, you know what, forget this. I think it was worse than that. He was like, forget this. I'm going to bed. Good night. And she was still drunk, and I think she drank some more. She also was taking Zoloft, which, if you want to look it up, is an antidepressant. Not a good mix with alcohol and not a good mix with cocaine. I'm surprised it didn't, I'm happy it didn't kill her, but it, yeah. 3 p.m., May 28th, 1998. She was intoxicated. She was high. And she was mad at Phil. She took a .30 caliber gun, went into their bedroom, and she shot Phil in the head, killing him instantly. She realized what she had done to Phil, and she was in shock. What did I just do? I just killed my husband. I killed the father of my children. What do I do? She left her 2 sleeping children, son and daughter, in their bed, their father's dead body in their room, and ran to her friend's house. And she told him, I think his name was Robert, I don't remember last name. She was like, I killed him. And she was like, what are you talking about? She's like, I killed Phil. I killed him. He's dead. And he was like, are you sure? And she was like, I put a gun to his head. I killed him. Don't want to go too far into it, but then he's like, okay. They get back in. They drive 2 separate cars. His car, she drives hers. I'm still surprised she got there fine. He runs into the house. He checks the bed. He says Phil is dead. He calls 911. Around 6 o'clock in the morning, the police finally get there. Brian runs back into the bedroom with Phil, and she locks herself into the room. Around 6:10, they hear a gunshot go off. Brian put the gun to her head and she killed herself. And when they broke into the room, they found her body next to Phil's on the bed. Homicide, suicide. Not cool. Phil was beloved by so many people, and he has survived by his 2 children. At the time, his mother was still alive. His father passed away that year in April. Sadly, he joined him in May. His mother passed away in 2001. His daughter is my age. She's 32. His son was born in 89. Survived by his son, Sean, who also kind of followed in his father's footsteps as an actor. Phil Hartman. He is still remembered by many. It is just such a sad story of someone who literally did everything to make his life amazing, and he did, and everybody still loved Phil. He completed Small Soldiers, so not in the movie, but if you ever watch Small Soldiers on TV, if it ever pops up, they do a little skit session with Phil at the end of it, and they say for Phil at the end of it. For the 40th anniversary of Saturday Night Live, they made sure that they remembered Phil. It was a really good story. It was really sad. His daughter still remembers him, and she posts pictures of her daddy every once in a while. One of the few blessed girls in this world who had a really good father who wanted to stay with her and be with her and love her and show her, like, his dad was a good dad. So he had those traits taken away just too soon. That's the story of Philip Edward Hartman. Tragic. It's a story that always is on my mind, because it's like, I remember I actually had the discussion with my aunt. It's been a while since we had this discussion. She's like, because we were watching like house guest with him and Sinbad, and it was such a good movie. And she was like, you know what, they never said what happened to Phil. Like, we don't see him anymore. And I was like, Tack, he died. He was murdered by his wife. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, tragic. It really is sad. I'm not like joking. Like, it's really sad to love someone and then. But yeah, so like Bailey says, be safe out there, make good choices. I agree. And what I also want to tell y'all before I go, it is September. It is my mother's birthday month, so it is a national holiday, September 19th. And we are going to come back and we're going to do a video, me and Mama. And it's going to be based on one of her favorite people. No, it's not Elvis. She loves Elvis, but Elvis is mine. This is another favorite person. I'm going to let it shock y'all. I'm going to let it shock y'all because it's great. It's one of my favorite. I love him. I love this guy. And October is coming. And if you follow me on like Facebook or Instagram, I do something every October. I have my own little Halloween / October Fear Horror Fest. And I'm excited. I don't know how many times I'm going to do like movie reviews. I might do brief ones on the reels or something. I'll be like, so this movie is something else. But we'll see. But yeah, that's my video for today. And sometimes you guys, you just need to chill and sip.